Dan selepas daripada sesi ini, IPSIS akan menguploadkan video presentation yang akan dijalankan oleh penceramah di dalam YouTube channel IPSIS. Okay, sekarang sudah pukul 3. Can we begin now? Boleh ya? Dr. Khor dah ada? Boleh? Alright. Okay. Sekejap. Saya mulakan dengan sesi ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat petang. Nama saya Associate Professor Dr. Aman Muhammad Ihsan. Saya adalah Head for the Postgraduate Studies for Research Program. So thank you very much for attending this webinar series. We have conducting this webinar series since last week, and then it's going to be until end of the month. Yeah. So we have the starting from evaluating of the research proposal until to the research supervision, and then how to increase your research visibility so that we can get more postgraduate by research student. So as for today's session, we are very thankful to Associate Professor Dr. Khor for accepting our invitation to give on talk for the research proposal evaluations for the health science and medicines examiners, panel of examiners. So before we begin our session, I would like to highlight some of the data so that all the supervisors, examiners, and as well academic staff in UITM, you're going to alert of what is our current standing for the data and why we are so pushing this process so hard, for especially for the student doing the RP and then student waiting for their research thesis to be examined by the thesis examiner. So this is the numbers of our postgraduate students, where as you can see that this is for research masters and PhD, starting from 2005 until 2020. For master student research, that the new student that we receive about, this is a master student for coursework and as well for coursework, mixed mode and research, where master student we have for 2019 about 3,190. But we have peak point, I think, in around 2013 to 2014, where the total number of students is about 4,140. So, but now in 2015, the numbers, 2016, the numbers have dropped, and then now we are catching up the numbers of the student, so that by 2020 we hope that the numbers we can exceed for numbers in 2013 and 2014. And the trend for the number of PhD students, as we can see here, is for the first time in 2019 that we have exceeded more than 617. And in 2018, we have exceeded 526. Hopefully by 2020, we can exceed more than 700 new students for the PhD. So this can be able to be achieved if we can increase our visibility, and we also have to bear in mind to increase our quality of education by increasing the GOT, by also improving the process for the DRP, the process for the thesis examination, and other processes that involve in the postgraduate studies. So this is a new intake by the faculties. As you can see here, for the medicine category, for the medic, the numbers of the masters and PhD student, as you can see there, and then DS, medic, MD, DS is DS is dentistry, health science, HS, and then AS for the applied science, and then also for the faculty of pharmacy, PH. I think the highest number for this category is the pharmacy PH, where the total number of students is about 309. But we have seen a few quite drop numbers for faculty of pharmacy for the last few years. Yeah, and then as well for PhD students. For the number of PhD students, the highest is pharmacy again, 137, but slightly dropped for the past few years. And then MD, the total numbers is 80 for PhD students. DS is about, let me see, DS is about 56 students. Okay. All right. So this is a timeline for your awareness. Starting from the students do the registration until to Senate letter, they receive the Senate letter after the thesis examination. So the GOT is calculated from the date of the physical registration of the student until to the date of the student receive their Senate letters, or their result be endorsed by the Senate meeting. Okay. So for the faculty of all the faculty, the GOT for the master student is 24 months and PhD is 48 months. However, for dentistry, medic, their GOT for master student is 36 months and GOT for PhD students is 60 months, which is 5 years. Okay, so this is the numbers of students not doing the RP. Bear in mind to all supervisors to push your students to complete their DRP within 6 months for master student full-time, and 12 months for the master student part-time, and PhD student 12 months for the full-time, and part-time 18 months. So according to this chart, as we can see here, there are about 35 students for the health science who are not doing their DRP yet. And then DS, okay, DS 4A, MD 14. So if you are supervising the students, please be noted and then push your student to do their DRP as soon as possible. Okay, so this is the status for the Viva Vose, where the student that have submitted the thesis but pending their Viva for the right side, and then for the left side, that the number of Viva Vose that have been conducted by the faculty for this year until July. Okay, so if you are now currently examining the thesis for this category, and please push to submit the thesis examination as soon as possible. Okay, so this is for the student who are doing the corrections. We got minor correction for their Viva Voce examinations, and this is with the major correction for Viva Voce. So this is the number of I graduate for graduate student for the master and PhD student for the research program, whereby we see that significant drop for this year, even though it's already in September. We hope that to achieve about 300 numbers, 300 PhD students to be graduated by this year, but it's looked like a little bit difficult, but everything is possible if we have cooperation from all other lecturers and as well the students in UITM. So as you can see here, last year we got 238, last 2018 251. So this will affect our Myra score, as now we are in the crucial situation. In 2019, the Myra score is about 76%, which compare with the 2018, which is I think about 78 to 79% when we do the submission for the Myra score. As we cannot do much thing for 2019, but for 2020, we still can push our numbers, even though the numbers for PhD is about 105 until I think this is about 8 July. And we have to push this to up to at least exceeded this 238 in order to maintain our excellence points for the Myra. And this is a percentage for the IGOT for the PhD student, which is about 13% for this year and 5% for the master student. So you can scan this borang kehadiran and maklum balas, and please fill out the form. You can fill it now, and as well you can fill it by the end of the session that will be given by Dr. Khor. So I hope that you will enjoy to receive this information, this new knowledge sharing session by the Associate Professor Dr. Khor. So thank you very much. I pass this to Dr. Khor. So if you have any queries, please do so. Type in the chat, or you can ask after the session conducted by Dr. Khor. Okay, so thank you very much. So I pass to you, Dr. Khor.
Okay, very good afternoon to all of my fellow colleagues. Thanks for IPSIS to organize this webinar series of upskilling, postgraduate supervision, and assessment. Hold on. Okay, hope you can see my full screen now. Okay, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank IPSIS for giving me to share this talk, evaluating proposal for master by research medicines. I hope this sharing session with my knowledge that gained during my appointment as a evaluator will benefit my fellow friends. I'm Dr. Khor Heah from Center of Preclinical Science Study, Faculty of Dentistry, UITM. First of all, I'd like to show you the gist of the presentations. Evaluate master research proposal. Research proposal is important. Roadmap of master research proposal. Evaluating the content of the research proposal, and there will be have some bring home message. At the end of these sections, I will share the defense research proposal assessment. Okay. So why do we need to evaluate the research proposal? First of all, we know that a master of research can be undertaken as a pathway of qualification to a PhD, as well as it can be a training platform to provide a professional research skills. So usually the research project by master degree will take at least 2 semesters to complete. But usually our master students will take more than 2 years to complete their master degree. Hopefully by this series of webinar that organized by IPSIS, can help our students to be graduate on time in 2 years for most of the faculty, except 3 years for students in medicine and dentistry. Usually, students are not allowed to start their experiment without approach a research proposal by the faculty. The proposal actually need to be evaluated by the assessor, a panelist of different research proposal that have to be appointed by the faculty, usually which content of the contact expert of subject matter. Usually they have one number 1 and 2, and one research methodology. They'll look into the methodology whether it's sufficient or durable to conduct for the research. Panelists usually will give plenty of time to evaluate the master proposal, at least 2 weeks in advance. So the duty of the panel is to help to improve the quality of the proposal. This is to make sure that the proposal is at least can contribute to the new knowledge as a master level degree. Also to make sure that the quality of the UITM graduate that produced by our university is up to the university standards. This is why the assessor are playing a very important role in evaluating the proposal for master by research before the students are allowed to embark into their research activity. Why research proposal is important? Research proposal actually is a study plan which is demonstrated a masterpiece of the specific field of the study. This includes the component of the independent research, analysis, critical evaluations, application, and it also show the ability of the student that can solve the complex problem. It also shows the student understanding in the specific topic of the study. It describes the detail of the study, and it also confirms the area of the research that yet to be explored. Mainly here, the research gap come in, where students actually have to find a research gap in his research. It also signifies the methodology that is appropriate to develop. The decisions of the study are based on the quality of the proposal, as mentioned above. This is why the role of assessor is important to help or to guide the student, which can lead them to the right track of their research. Besides the good research proposal, it also helps to the student or their research team to apply the research grant, which is looking for funding in the budgeting, right, buying a reagent, attending workshop or conference. This the outcome of the master research also can be transformed into at least one index journal article in ISI or Scopus Index. So what's next? Okay, this slide I'll show you the roadmap of master research proposal. First, we'll start off of the research title. Research title is very important. It's a main part of the research. Then we go to the research background, the problem statements, research activity, aim or purpose, the research objective, the significance of the study, clinical significance, the expected significant contribution to the society, the reference that students will be used in his research, teacher review, methodology or research design, schedule for the research. So now let me explain one by one in detail for each research plan. Okay, look at the title for the research. As most of our assessor, we are, as one of the assessor, first thing we will look into it is check the title of the research. From here we can get some idea about what research the students are going to embark on. Title must be tagging to the program, title must be tagging to the program educational objective of the faculty. Example, if the student that registered in the faculty of dentistry, then the research title of the student must be related to the dental subject. The title also cannot be too long or too short. If too short means it's too general. So if the title is too long, sometimes some proposal have given two line of the title, but this will show the redundancy. Example, right? I can show you some example that is more I'm familiar with. A study of breast cancer in Peninsular Malaysia population expressed certain gene expression is associated with sugar consumptions. So looking at this title, actually the title is bit too long and bit redundant. You can just take out the word of a study or the Peninsular Malaysia, then this title will look more perfectly and suit to our criteria to be a good title. Research can be as an abstract for the research. By looking at this kind of title, we can see what the student trying to focus in the study. The research title also can be the summary of the proposal. Example, like a certain gene expression in cancer. This title actually can show us that whether it is a single gene or a group of genes is expressed in a pathway study. Okay, so another thing is if we look at the keywords. The keywords sometimes it reflect the key item in the research. Like example, if you study breast cancer, then the breast cancer should appear as a title in the keywords. Okay, rather than appear for the cancer itself, the word itself. So actually we are targeting the breast cancer is a targeted disease for the study. This is why the breast cancer must appear as a keyword in the title itself. Research title can be included the issue or method. We can include sometimes the issue, what is the issue of your study, or sometimes you can, some proposal also gives some study that evaluated or using some technique. Okay, example I can give you is expression of certain gene expression in cancer using a modified PCR technique. So from here you can see actually students are using the modified PCR technique that he's modified some new technique that or he modified the technique that not other people have done yet before. Okay, so this is about the title of the research. Now we also as an evaluator we also will check through the background of the proposal. Background actually is about the information expanded to the key point at the beginning of the introductions, but not too extended or not so expand or very comprehensive like in the literature review. Literature review is another part that is studying more study as a background, but it's more in depth and more comprehensive in the certain topic. Okay, so why the study is important? Because it describes the significance of the research question or the problem that facing. It also have to investigate the problem from previous or other researchers' study. These were addressing the gaps or the missing point that had not been done by others. This is what we as an assessor are looking for. Usually, the assessor will look for the missing point or the gap that student must be focused on for his project in the latter part. The research question, by answering the so what questions, is as the research objective. So the research question actually have to answer the research objective that have been listed by the student itself. So make sure that the research objective can be achieved at the end of the research. So usually at the end of the background, student will have to summarize the research outcome, which can be achieved at the end of the study. So for the problem statement, that is also a very critical part, because the panel also will assess this section closely. Okay, in order for the panel to understand what the students are doing or focusing on what kind of study, panel first will look into the problem statement that listed by the students. So the problem statement should recurrent emergency, why the student need to conduct the study to solve the issues. Usually student will give a brief background on proposed problems, and then you will be just satisfied. It can be just satisfied the primary data that collected by his or her supervisor lab, or the student try to extend the study with more data for a very significant study than as a previous primary study, or he also can try to solve the limitation of previous study. This problem statement also have to highlight or to emphasize where there is an emergency for the student to conduct the study. Student must emphasize why he conduct this study. Is there any emergency for this study to be conducted? The current situation about the problem is required to be addressed here also. Students need to emphasize the current situation. Where is the problem? What problem is facing by the current scenario? Okay, the research gap need to be highlighted, and what are the issues that students need to further explore here to solve the current problem in this study. So usually they have some common mistake that done by the student in this problem statement, where the problem statements is too lengthy or too long. Okay, this statement actually is not focused in the real issue or the gap, which is what's supposed to be addressed or to investigated by the student itself. Usually students will join the problem statement with the background of the study. They have an tendency to join together the problem and the background together. Okay, so background actually is just to discuss the same setting about the research. It should only focus on the current issue, on what the study will be working on. Okay, the background should be more focusing on the current issue rather than the previous issue. It must be very clear that what is the problem is facing or the issue that have arisen in the previous study. Okay, now look at the research question. This is also another part that the research question we have to focus on. Research question actually is a set of the broad questions that develop under the background. In the background, the broad question will be developed underneath. So a good research question seems to improve knowledge on an important topic. And this important topic usually are narrow and specific. Usually these topics are not broad, but they are very specific topic to be discussed on. So the objective of the study or the problem can be solved through the research, because we have to narrow down or you have to specify your problem segment, then only you can have an objective to solve this problem. Okay. The research questions must be answered at the end of the study based on the finding, based on the research finding. Okay. So the research question guide the research direction. So it makes sure that the research activity, the research have been conducted always on the right track. Okay, on the right track of the research. Type of the question can be either quantitative with the why, or qualitative with what and how, and those must be answerable in the study. Those questions can be answerable in the study. So this is why a strong research question must be specific enough so that student can answer it throughout using the appropriate research method. It should also be complex enough to require in-depth investigations or analysis or argument for the students to understand the topic, so students can analyze and have some in-depth argument for his topic in the research proposal. Okay, now I show you some example of the research question, how they manage to formulate it. If the research question type is descriptive, so usually we start off with the action verb of what. Example here are what are the characteristics of the X. So if the research question type is comparative research, then we will compare what are the differences or the similarity between the two of them. If there is a correlation study, so we'll compare what is the relationship between the two variants. For the action research, usually we have the words of how this or how something can be achieved, or what are the most effective strategy to improve the why. This is something we need to think of, how to use the action verb to generate the questions for the student to generate these good research questions. Okay, next we'll go to the research objective. Research objective must be clearly stated what is going on to be tested by the experiment. Okay, so the research objective have to clearly cited or clearly mention what experiment are going to carry out. It must be described what the study intend to achieve by doing a piece of work. These objectives must be realistic, consistent, and it can be linked them to the method. So by looking at the method, you have to link this methodology to the research objective. Besides the method, you also link to the time frame, the outcome, which can be achievable by the study. So basically, research objective is to check whether the students' methods, their duration of conducting the experiment, and their result, is it achievable at the end of the study. This research objective also must tally or answer the research questions. Some proposals presented, usually they have a set of common research objective. Some proposals, they have one set of the research objective, rather than they have some, they have like a general research objective, then they sub it down to a specific research objective. Like I show you the example here. they have the general objective as just general for the study, and later they have a few specific objective for the following study. Okay. So the aim of the study must be achievable by using action-oriented word for these sections. So the example of the action-oriented word is to determine, to identify, to compare, to explain. So this, I mean, this study actually is measurable. We can refer to the Bloom taxonomy of learning to create this action-oriented words. In the Bloom taxonomy of learning, at least the level 4 analysis skill is applied. So this is why we have this to determine, to explain, to identify, to compare. Those kind of words are supposed to be emphasized in our student research proposal for their analysis skill. Okay, next we also look for the scope of the study. The parameters setting up the study or by the students have to set for the, students have to set for the study. Like example, the clinical type of the study or the fundamental type of the study. So in this, the scope of study is to consist of the general purpose of the study, what's the purpose, what is the aim of this study, what is the population or the topic, what is the population or sample that students are studying. The topic of the theory of the student also must discuss. Next is go for the study durations, the duration of the study, how long it will take to complete the whole process, and the method they apply. You have to mention in this scope of the study, and the locations or geographical locations that I have to mention in this scope of study also. So the other very important component for the research proposal is study significant. How significant is your study can contribute or can benefit to the society? Okay, how the research will be benefit to the medical or health issue, but for the society generally, for the society, and this part students should convey the importance of the study into the contributions or the benefit to the society. Besides that, they also have to emphasize or break down this contribution into the community, policy maker, knowledge to the stakeholder or the industry. So students have to mention why their study is significant to the society, or maybe he can generate a new knowledge to the science, to the clinicians, or to the science field. Okay, this is another component of the research proposal, references. References need to include in the research proposal. Usually the references listed in the reference list only included those references that cited in the proposal. Those are cannot find in the proposal, don't put in the reference list. Okay. So this reference list must be reliable. At least 50% are at the latest of the 10 years of the publication. So you don't take the old more than 20 years old of the publication, because sometimes the facts maybe is not reliable anymore. Okay, unless there's the finding that was the idea or the new idea was generated during that year, in the year of 30 years, they find a new idea, then maybe you can use that 30 years publication, and you can put it in your reference list. Okay, and the reference list also must be fair in the citations. Sometimes student, you will see sometimes the student keep citing their supervisor work or publication rather than others. So actually, when you see they keep citing their supervisor work, it is not fair, because other people might do the similar work, but they have the other, the not similar result obtained. So students have to fine tune how find the gap between what happened in this kind of study. This is very important for the student to find the gap between what happened, the supervisor's finding and others' finding. Okay, this is why the reference lists are so important. So basically, not only look at your not only look at the students' supervisor's work, but also we need to check other researcher work also. Okay, for the research review, have to be focused, and it is a review about the past study, and it must review it in depth. Okay, it has to understand the previous issue or concerns of the area for research regarding the theory, model, concept, method, or applications. So here the theoretical or conceptual framework is discussed. Those related topic that are related to the student study must be presented and discussed in these sections. Okay, so by discussing those topics, student can lead the gap of the study, so he can actually fine tune from the gap and of the study, or he can fine tune the gap that he's supposed to focus on after he reading a lot of the research review. He also have to highlight the research gap, which is important for students' research directions. Okay, actually, research gap actually are guiding the student direction, which direction of the research is supposed to go on. Students must also focus and engage critically, but not just informing or reporting the previous study. So basically, we cannot just student cannot just reporting or just getting the just informing or reporting the previous study. He must able to gain the, or he must able the information without gaining knowledge for the study. I mean, students have to gain more knowledge, or they have to study in depth, or criticizing or suggesting, rather than just gather the information without gaining the knowledge for the study. Okay, and it's advisable to develop a table of research review summary. By having this, the table comparisons, it will show the table comparison with the proposed or the past study. Okay, so mainly for the clinical research, this is suggested student can present a systemic research review in the proposal. So you can see when student can present this systemic review, research review, it make his mind very clear about what he's supposed to focus on. So they won't have any missing or any other study that related to the clinical study. Okay, by doing this, the study that conducted by the student won't be repeated other people's study. This is what we try, evaluator try to find out whether the student is repeating other people's work. So if the student can present this kind of the table, it make it is much more easier for the evaluator to find out whether student is repeating other people's work or not. Okay, I just show you some example of the table comparison for two study. So basically, they have a type of the study and the purpose, the method, how long, when this study is conducting, and what is the sample size, what is the outcome. So what is the finding? The important part here is what is the finding. So from this comparison of study, student actually can fine-tune where he's supposed to focus on if he has some similar topic want to embark on, but he can fine-tune on the gap, which gap he want to focus on if you have this kind of comparison of the table. Next, we'll look into the methodology. Methodology actually is a general framework guiding a research project. So we have a different method that can be used to target a different questions. And the methodology actually is the heart of the research proposal. It's the heart of research proposal, because with the methodology, then only you can solve your research problem. Okay. In the methodology, you should have the experimental design. Students must show a specific outline detailing how they can choose the method, how they choose the method which will be applied to answer particular research questions. They must also propose experimental design to analyze the problem presented, the detail of the proposal, and the technique to be used for collecting data, data analysis or statistical analysis of the data, which is more appropriate. So actually, a methodology have to be planned for the research objective. So each objective is achievable at the end of the experiment. Is this doubtful, or is it doable enough for the master degree level? Sometimes during the Viva time, we can ask this kind of questions during the DRP process, and we'll see how the student can manage to answer or not. By asking this question, actually we are checking whether student is understand their topic or not. Research methodology also must show the scientific approach, not just a general approach. It must have a scientific approach. Okay, and student must clear about the procedure, the tools, the instrument that available. Student also must know that whether the instrument he planned to use in his project is available in the lab or in the university. This is to show that what and how and the reason of why for the methodology. Okay, how the study can be how or what the study, or what's the reason why methodology is conducted. Example, like for primary data, the source we can correct is from the questionnaire or interview, and the secondary data is involved in the data collection, time series, or the document analysis of the data. So In the sampling, it shows the sampling method like patient sample corrections, how the patient sample can be corrected, how to correct, or when to correct, and where to correct. Okay. And okay, look at the sample size. Sample size also is very important because sample size might be significantly enough for the study. So we need to have the sample size calculations. Okay. The sample size calculations is very important. Whether the sample is enough for the significant study, it must show the sample size calculation in the proposal. Students have to show how the sample size is obtained from the study. Usually students have to show what is the sample size calculation formula that he can obtain, and how he managed to get the sample size by generating using a sample size calculator. Okay. Data correction methods are based on the design and performance parameters. Those data obtained must be reliable and valid. When normal control actually is planned to run together with the experiment, this is to checking the test reliability and the validity. Okay, for the data analysis, it must show the accuracy, reliability, the test variance. Normally, we only use certain software like SPSS to run the statistical analysis to test the significance of the study for our data set. Next, we will see the milestone. Milestone also part of the important component here. Milestone or Gantt chart is a logical or chronological sequence of the research activity. Okay, so this one actually is show the month-to-month plan of the research progress to check the timeline of the research, and whether how long this research will take, will it be complete on time, and is it achievable in the research objective. So actually this is the very important timeline for monitor the research activity of the student. Here, I want to show you some sample of the DRP assessment of the form. I think most of you may seen this form. If you have appointed as an assessor before, or some of you may be new to this kind of form. Okay, so the first part is showing the students have to fill up the first part. So have to fill up the particular of this form. Then followed by the second part is have to fill up by the assessor. The first part is assess the assessment of the title of research. You take 5% of the 100 marks. So if the title is crystal clear, then we can give 4 to 5 marks. Okay. Next, you look into the problem statement. Problem statement, you do take out a lot of the mark, 30%. So 10% is for analysis of the problem, and the other 10% is for the national or justification of the research gap. Next, we'll look into the research objective or research question. You took 20 marks. This is to check whether the research objective or research question are described clearly. Next, we'll look into the research review or hypothesis development, conceptual or the framework. 10% for the able to organize the different body of knowledge logically, or 10% is for the proposed research framework or academic constructs. Okay, next is the research proposal methodology now. You show the research methodology or research design with 20%. So 20 mark were for the method of the data collection and analysis, sample design, procedure, technique, and experiment setup. And finally, is the significant or the applied value of the research. You take up 15%. You usually can give 10 to 50 if there's a clear significant study. So after the DRP, student will be graded based on the mark score. In the outcome of the DRP, it can be graded as 1 to 4. So if student have get mark less than 40, is ranked at the ranking number 4. So the ranking number 4 actually is mean that the proposal rejected. Student is requested to prepare a new proposal and present again at the faculty. For the mark with 40 to 59, the ranking of number 3, major amendment, students have to resubmit the amendment proposal and present again to the faculty. And the other one, the 60 to 79 mark is for the second ranking. If the student is present up to the bar and fulfill the criteria of the issues, many assessor will give them the mark of in between 60 to 79. So this proposal is accepted with minimum amendment. Proposal with amendment as recommended by the panel of assessor must be submitted to and verified by the faculty within 1 month. So students have to submit back to the faculty within 1 month for the date of the from the date of the DRP. After submission of this proposal, the student can proceed for his study. And finally, is the issue actually is the excellence. But I think most of the student is very hard to get this 80 to 90 marks because this is the excellence mark that evaluator will give them. Proposal accepted without amendment, so student can proceed. Usually the proposal that presented by student hardly accepted without amendment. Sometimes we try to find some something for the student, at least some the notation or some spelling mistake for the student to do amendment. Okay. So please bear in mind that we are evaluating the master candidate in the defined research proposal. So not to expect the high proposal content as a PhD candidate. Hopefully the comment that given by the assessor should be in detail and comprehensive. This is to help our students to improve their knowledge and writing skill before they can start their research journey in writing. So along the way of the evaluation, we already find some, we used to find some common mistake that done by the students. Topic is too broad, too general, research problem, objective, the research question or hypothesis is not clear, the research review is poor, the student not able to identify the gap, there is not clear in research contributions or the significance of the study. They also not, sometimes we also find students propose very unclear methodology in the sampling, in the instrument, in the measurement, analysis. Also, sometimes students show very ineffective use of the diagram, table, features. And most of the time, students use the outdated references and poor in writing. So if students have presented this kind of the proposal, then we as a reviewer have to thoroughly review and give comment to make them to write a better proposal. So the take-home message here is the good research proposal contain all the components in the IPSIS guide. It will give the detail of the proposed study. It will to explore clearly, define, demonstrate the problem and research required. You also will create a clear mind or the map mind. You also will create the mind map to the thesis in the proposal. So it definitely demonstrate the student is really prepared for the research and thesis writing processes. So thank you very much. With this, I would like to end my presentation by saying a quote: "Evaluate what you want, because what get measured get produced." So we as a evaluator make sure what we evaluate can produce a good quality of UITM graduates. And actually, we are learning together, learning each other to produce a good quality of the UITM master graduates. I hope this sharing section can give an effective way in evaluating research proposal for our master student by research. And to all my fellow friends, thanks again for taking your time to join this webinar. And with this, I have to hand over this platform to the chairperson, Dr. Aman. Thanks, Dr. Aman.
Okay, thank you very much, Associate Professor Dr. Khor. So before we end up our session, I would like to open to all the participants. If you have any question, please turn on your microphone, and then you can ask from Dr. Khor. Okay. Are there any question? Dr. Hasna? Any question? Or you can type the question on the chat room. Okay, so I have posted the attendance form so that you can fill in the attendance form and then give us the feedback for the webinar session for today. So yes, please be noted that when you fill out the form, our speaker, you have to choose the correct speaker's name. Okay. So are there any questions? Any questions? Tak ada? Okay, so now it's already 4 o'clock. So I think I should thank to Dr. Khor. Thank you very much for your presentation today, for your sharing session, knowledge sharing. We hope that you can join us for our another webinar session that we're going to have tomorrow, but it's for the engineering and sciences, which is we're going to have the two presenter. One is Dr. Emmeline from Faculty of Electrical Engineering, and there's another one, I think, let me check the schedule. Which is Dr. Emmeline and Associate Professor Dr. Abdul Kadir for non-SNT. So both of them, they are going to present about the thesis evaluation for master students. For Dr. Emmeline for Engineering and Sciences, Dr. Kadir for non-SNT, non-Science and Technology. So thank you very much. especially to Dr. Khor, and then to all our attendees here. So hope to see you soon, to see you in another webinar series. Okay, so bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.